Right in front of Beverly's open casket, the program damp in my fist, when Kim walked up with David at her side. I reached for her like any father would. She flinched, pulled away, and under the hush of the congregation said it plainly, "You're not family anymore." A cold silence fell. I heard coats rustle, forks clink in the reception room next door, the world resuming like nothing catastrophic had happened. My daughter said I wasn't family at her mother's funeral. The words were a blow that knocked the air out of me. I didn't rant. I didn't accuse. I mouthed Beverly's name and left before the graveside prayers finished. My hands shook when I opened the funeral program in the car. A scrap of paper fell out. Beverly's handwriting. It read, "If Kim turns on you, it's because she doesn't know what I've hidden." Beverly's note said a lockbox held the truth and warned me not to confront Kim until I found it. I drove home slow, thinking of the safe deposit we opened years ago. When I got to the house, Kim and David were already packing photos, dishes, things Mom wanted us to have. David greeted me with the easy charm of a man who believed he'd already won. I nodded, calm on the surface, and waited until they left. Then I lifted Beverly's jewelry box and found a small silver key taped beneath it, engraved with April 16th. My chest tightened the way it does before a storm. The bank. The deposit box. Beverly left me a map in code. The key fit the old safety deposit box, and inside would be either closure or a fuse. At the old bank the clerk gave me the metal box. Inside were photos, a sealed letter stamped, "For Kim when she's ready for the truth," and a USB drive labeled, "For Walter only." I plugged it into my laptop at home and Beverly's face filled the screen. Her voice was small but steady. She said someone was poisoning Kim against me, and she named a man, David. My hands went cold. Beverly explained in clipped sentences how David sowed lies about money and my past, how he steered Kim toward anger, how he built a story to justify taking control of her inheritance. Her last line was a plea, "Don't move without proof." Halfway through the video I froze. A muffled conversation floated up from downstairs. David's voice. Kim's. They were still here. I stayed still at the top of the stairs and listened. David's voice was smooth, "Your father hid the money meant for you. He ruined Mom's business." Kim's answers were small and shaky. She asked if I really did this. David told her he had documents, he'd handle it, he said, and they'd sell the house and move on. He talked about securing our future, as if he was planning a renovation, not an ambush. Every lie he spun was a nail hammered where trust used to be. I wanted to burst down and drag him into the open, but Beverly's warning circled my head. Evidence first. I dialed Clinton, my old colleague, now retired, and left him a short, flat message, "I need help setting a trap." Clinton called back within the hour. He asked one cold question, "Do you want him exposed or ruined?" Clinton and I sat at the kitchen table. I showed him Beverly's video and the note. The way Beverly named David was quiet but precise. Clinton didn't blink. He said we'd proceed like architects, measure twice, strike once. He suggested bringing in Biden, an old investigator Clinton trusted, and building a paper trail that tied David to missing funds. We traced transactions, called old vendors, and found small, suspicious transfers into accounts David controlled. It was methodical, surgical. I wasn't after humiliation. I wanted truth that couldn't be spun away. Before I left Clinton's house, my phone buzzed with a text from Kim. "David says we're selling the house next week. Please don't come around anymore." I read it twice and folded the phone into my palm. I forced a sad smile. In my head I thought the exact opposite. Perfect. That was exactly what I needed. Biden sat across from me in a dim cafe, stirring his coffee like he was timing my heartbeat. I told him everything, from the funeral to Beverly's video. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "You don't need to destroy him. You just need him to reveal himself. He explained a plan, legal, elegant, patient. We'd create an opportunity David couldn't resist, a fake investment tied to Beverly's estate. If he bit, we'd have proof he'd been manipulating Kim. I agreed. As I left, Biden said quietly, people like David always hang themselves. We just hold the rope. The first email of the trap went out that night, from a shell company Clinton set up. David replied within an hour, interested. Let's meet. I smiled at my screen, feeling Beverly's presence beside me, calm and approving. David arrived at a downtown office Clinton borrowed from a friend. He thought he was meeting an investor who knew Beverly. I watched through the camera feed Biden set up. David's confidence filled the room. His voice was smooth, his smile rehearsed. He talked about liquidating the old assets and redirecting funds from her father's share. Biden whispered beside me, that's our confession. But then David did something unexpected. He named Kim as a willing partner. My heart jolted. Could that be true? Or was he using her name to shield himself? I needed to know. I texted Kim that evening, can we talk about your mother? She left me on read. 2 days passed in silence. Then Kim called, voice tight but polite. Let's have dinner, she said. David will be there. I agreed, knowing it was a setup. At the restaurant, Kim was dressed like her mother once did, elegant, cautious, pretending strength. David ordered wine for all three of us, and the first thing he said was, we're putting the house on the market. I said nothing. I just slid a small folder across the table. Inside were printouts of his bank transfers. He blanched but recovered quickly. You've been spying on us, he said. Kim's eyes widened. She looked between us, confused. I smiled. No. I've been protecting what's yours. Kim stared at the documents, then at David. Her face went pale. David leaned forward, voice dropping low. These could be faked. Your father's desperate. But Kim's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. She stood abruptly, chair scraping loud. She stormed out before I could explain. David leaned close and whispered, you've made a mistake, old man. Now you'll see what family really means. The next morning, my car's windshield was shattered. A note under the wiper read, back off or I'll finish what Beverly started. The phrasing chilled me. It meant David knew about the video or suspected it. I showed the note to Biden, who frowned. He's losing control. That's when they make mistakes. We tightened the trap. Clinton filed paperwork freezing the estate temporarily. Biden tracked David's calls and found he'd been contacting a woman named Neera, a paralegal Beverly once trusted. When I saw the name, something twisted inside me. Beverly had mentioned Neera briefly before she died, someone helping with signatures. Biden said, if Neera helped move those funds, we'll have your proof and your revenge. I felt Beverly's memory settle around me, guiding my next steps forward with steady hands. I met Neera in a quiet park. She looked nervous, younger than I remembered. I didn't know what he was doing, she said before I even asked. David said it was a surprise for Kim, some trust fund paperwork. I only notarized things. Then I saw my signature on documents I never touched. Her hands trembled as she passed me a flash drive. Everything's here. The emails, the transfers, the fake authorizations. I took it and thanked her softly. For the first time since Beverly's death, I felt her presence beside me, calm, approving. When I got home, I loaded the drive and watched the evidence unfold. David's empire was about to collapse, and Kim would have no choice but to see who'd been standing in the shadows for her. As I shut down the laptop, a message pinged from an unknown number. You think you're winning, Walter? Check the news tomorrow. The next morning, Biden's words echoed as I scrolled through my phone. There it was, a headline flashing across every business page: local architect accused of hiding late wife's assets from daughter. David's fingerprints were all over it. He'd leaked a falsified version of events, using documents twisted from the same files Beverly left behind. Kim's photo was beside mine. She looked betrayed, sad, and angry. My phone exploded with messages from friends and colleagues. Clinton told me to stay calm. The louder they shout, the faster they fall. But what broke me wasn't the article. It was the quote beneath Kim's picture: "I trusted my father once. Never again." I closed the phone and whispered to Beverly's memory, "Time to show them what truth looks like." Biden moved fast. We packaged the flash drive and everything. Biden moved fast. We packaged the flash drive Nira gave us and handed it to a quiet journalist Clinton trusted, one who valued proof over headlines. That night, while the world gossiped about me, another article dropped: documents suggest fraud by Kim's husband in family estate. Screenshots, signatures, and emails. All verified. Within hours, David's name replaced mine in the trending column. Kim didn't call, but she read it. I could tell because she unblocked me. A message pinged after midnight: "Is it true, Dad?" I typed a long reply, then deleted it. Instead, I sent one line: "Meet me tomorrow. Bring no one." She responded immediately: "Where?" I told her the bridge where Beverly used to take her for ice cream as a child. The place where trust was born, before David poisoned it with lies and greed. Kim met me at the bridge. She looked exhausted, eyes red, confidence gone. "I don't know who to believe," she said. "David says you forged this to get revenge." I handed her Beverly's sealed letter, the one marked, "For Kim when she's ready for the truth." She stared at it but didn't open it yet. "What if I can't handle what's inside?" she whispered. I said, "Then you'll keep living in his version of the world." She looked at me with tears pooling. Her fingers traced the seal her mother had pressed into the wax. "Why didn't you show me this at the funeral?" she asked. "Because you weren't ready to see it," I said quietly. She walked away with the letter. When I got home later that night, every light in the house was off except one in Beverly's old studio. The door was open. Someone was inside. I stepped quietly into Beverly's studio. The faint smell of her paint lingered, mixed now with cologne that wasn't mine. David stood by the window, rifling through a box of old photos. He didn't look surprised to see me. "You should have stayed quiet," he said. "Now Kim's confused, and that's your fault." He stepped closer, and his charm slipped, replaced by rage. "You always thought you were smarter, didn't you?" I stayed calm. "No. I just kept better records." He lunged, grabbed the flash drive from the desk, and stormed out. I watched him drive off through the window, headlights cutting through the dark. Then I dialed Biden. But before I could speak, Biden said, "I already know. The drive's a decoy." I smiled into the phone, feeling the trap snap shut around David's neck, exactly as planned. By dawn, the trap snapped shut. Biden had mirrored every file from the drive to a secure cloud. The journalist released a follow-up story, complete with audio of David's meeting at Clinton's office. Headlines flipped overnight: husband of Kim Walters implicated in financial deceit. TV crews surrounded their home. Kim's face on camera looked hollow, hurt, disbelieving. She finally opened Beverly's letter during a live interview. Her hands shook as she read her mother's words: "If you ever doubt your father, look at who profits from your anger." Her eyes filled, and she whispered, "Oh my God." David was arrested that evening. But instead of relief, I felt something heavier, the question of what came next. Revenge was done. But healing? That was another story. I sat alone that night, staring at Beverly's empty chair, wondering if truth was enough to rebuild what had been broken. David's arrest made the evening news again, but this time my name was spoken with respect. Reporters called me the father who proved the truth. Neighbors nodded when they saw me. It felt hollow. Beverly's chair at the dinner table was still empty. The house hummed with her silence. Kim hadn't called since the interview. I couldn't blame her. Shame builds walls thicker than anger ever could. I went into Beverly's studio and found a small unfinished painting on the easel, 3 silhouettes under a tree. Ours. Family, untouched by lies. I flipped the canvas over, and there was a note taped to the back in Beverly's handwriting, "For whoever learns forgiveness last." I pressed the note to my chest, tears finally breaking free. Beverly had known how this would end, even before she died. She'd left breadcrumbs for both of us to find our way back. Kim showed up 3 days later, pale and quiet. She stood at the doorway like a stranger. "I don't know what to say," she began. I told her she didn't have to say anything, just sit. She looked around the house, touching furniture like she was walking through a museum of her own mistakes. She finally whispered, "He's gone. I don't even know who I married." I poured her coffee, and we sat in silence. Then she asked, "How did you stay calm through all of this?" I answered honestly, "Because your mother taught me that revenge only counts when it rebuilds something." Kim wiped her tears and asked, "What did she mean by that?" I smiled softly. "She believed every plan should end with restoration. You tear down the rotten part, but you rebuild stronger." Kim nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. "I want to make it right, Dad. For both of you." We talked for hours about the business, about the people David cheated, about what came next. For the first time since the funeral, Kim reached across the table and held my hand. "I'm sorry, Dad," she whispered. "I should have listened." I squeezed her hand. "You listened when it mattered." That night, I opened my notebook and sketched out something new, the Beverly Foundation. Clinton helped me set it up, a scholarship fund for young architects, named after Beverly. Every dollar recovered from David's fraud went into it. Kim insisted on managing the outreach herself. She worked late, visited schools, told her mother's story not as a tragedy, but as a warning about trust and truth. One evening she said, "I didn't just lose a husband. I almost lost the person who taught me what family really means." I smiled. "Then you've already won back more than he ever took." Kim hugged me tightly that night and whispered, "You still haven't told me about Mom's final note." I took her to the studio. The painting still stood where I left it, the 3 silhouettes beneath the tree. "Mom started this before she died," I told her. "She never finished it because she said it wasn't complete until we learned the lesson." Kim looked at it, then at me. "What lesson?" I handed her a small envelope Beverly left inside the frame. Inside was one line in Beverly's script, "Family isn't blood. It's who stands with you after the storm." Kim broke down crying. For the first time since the funeral, we stood together, the silence between us soft again. I looked at the painting and said quietly, "You'll finish it, Kim. That's my gift to you." She nodded, wiping tears, already imagining the brush strokes she'd add to her mother's work. Weeks passed. David's trial began, but I didn't attend. Kim testified. Her voice cracked when she said, "My father tried to warn me." When she stepped outside, cameras flashed, but she didn't hide this time. She came to the house afterward, took off her heels, and said, "I want to finish the painting." I fetched Beverly's old brushes, stiff with dried color, and handed them to her. She started blending the sky. "You know what's strange," she said. "It feels like Mom's hand is guiding mine." I watched her work, feeling Beverly's presence fill the room. That night, Kim left the studio light on, and I heard her humming Beverly's favorite song. The sound wrapped around me like a blanket, warm and familiar. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Bev." Somewhere in the stillness, I felt her smile back. Clinton dropped by with documents, the foundation's registration, the final accounting of recovered assets. "Everything's clean now," he said. "You could retire quietly if you want." I nodded. That was the plan. He studied me. "You're giving it all to Kim, aren't you?" I smiled. "Not to her. Through her." He shook his head. "You always build things that outlive you, Walter." After he left, I wrote a letter addressed to Kim, the kind Beverly used to write, folded neatly, sealed with wax. On the envelope, I wrote one sentence, "To be opened when you think I'm gone." I placed it in my desk drawer, beneath old blueprints and faded photographs. My health started slipping after that, fatigue that didn't leave, hands that trembled when I held a pen. The doctors called it stress, but I knew better. Some storms don't end when the thunder stops. I spent my days watching Kim paint, her brush strokes patient and sure. One evening she said, "Dad, what if we hang this at the foundation's first event?" "That's where it belongs," I said. "It's a symbol of rebuilding." She smiled. "Then it's almost done." The next morning, she found my sketchbook open on the table, the last page blank except for 3 words, "Finish the tree." Kim stared at the words, understanding what I meant. She picked up her brush and worked for hours, adding branches, leaves, light filtering through the canopy. When she finished, she stepped back and whispered, "It's beautiful, Dad." I looked at the completed painting and felt something settle inside me. Peace. The kind Beverly used to talk about. The kind I thought I'd lost forever at the funeral. "Yes," I said. "It is." Months later, the foundation opened its first exhibition. Students, architects, journalists, all gathered under the banner The Beverly Project. At the center stood the painting, 3 silhouettes beneath a completed tree, signed Beverly, Kim, Walter. Kim gave a speech, calm, graceful, nothing like the broken girl from the funeral. She ended with, "This painting began in grief but ended in forgiveness. My mother started it, my father dreamed it, and I finished it." Applause rose like rain. I stood in the back, watching my daughter shine. After the event, Kim found a courier waiting outside with a letter in my handwriting. She opened it carefully, hands trembling. Inside, I told her the truth, that I knew Beverly's illness would take her, that my revenge on David was never about punishment. It was about freeing Kim from manipulation. I wrote, "The gift isn't money or a house. It's the strength to rebuild when someone calls you not family. You learned it the hard way, but you learned it." Below the letter was a deed, transferring everything I owned to the foundation in Kim's name. Kim pressed the paper to her chest and whispered, "Thank you, Dad." She looked up at the painting one last time, the tree, the light, the silhouettes, and smiled. She found me in the gallery, tears streaming. "You didn't have to do this," she said. I touched her cheek gently. "Yes, I did. Because that's what family does. We rebuild." She hugged me tight, and for the first time in months, I felt complete. Beverly's plan had worked. The foundation would live on, carrying her memory forward, teaching others what we'd learned through pain and perseverance. The gallery slowly emptied as evening settled. Kim and I stood alone before the painting, the 3 silhouettes glowing under soft lights. "Do you think Mom knew it would end like this?" Kim asked. I nodded. She knew we'd find our way back. Kim rested her head on my shoulder. "I'm sorry I said you weren't family, Dad. You've always been the only family that mattered." I kissed her forehead. "And you've always been worth fighting for." We stood there in silence, the painting holding our story, our pain, our redemption. Outside, the city lights flickered like stars. Inside, we were finally whole again. Beverly's voice echoed in my memory, "Build something that lasts, Walter. Build something that heals." I looked at Kim, at the foundation, at the painting, and smiled. I had. We had. Together. "You were right, Mom," I whispered. Family isn't who stays. It's who comes back stronger. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.